Okay.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about sexuality and gender and what that can look like, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. I think it's got quite a few intersections that may explain why, as adult autistic women, we work a bit differently in these areas of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for me, growing up, there wasn't really a term for it, but I always was just of the opinion that you love who you love.
And you're attracted to whoever you're attracted to.
Yeah, and I could never understand why anybody would want to sort of limit themselves or pigeonhole themselves into, I'm only ever going to find women attractive, or I'm only ever going to find men attractive, or blah blah blah. And I found that quite close-minded and almost arrogant in a way, to think that you would never ever
meet anybody
that would challenge those ideas. But for me, I guess I was always thought of myself as quite fluid in that sense, but not to the point that I'd ever want to put a label on it, if that made sense.
Yeah, and it's only recently that we're starting to see those descriptions, those labels reflected in our experiences, especially for me. Twitter as an adult now is the things that people are saying, that they're sharing, the labels, descriptions, the fact that people are being more open, it's really allowing me to understand the way I process. And the autistic community on social media, Twitter in particular, has really helped me understand that I'm not the only one that felt like that.
Yeah, and I think that you do see that a lot of autistic people are less likely not only to conform to gender but also sexuality kind of norms.
There was that stat that the lovely Anne Memmott shared the other day, that we're 30 times more likely to be non-hetero than neurotypical peers.
Yeah, and there was one study that showed that 23% of the autistic population were likely to identify as trans or non-binary, or, not identify specifically as cisgender anyway. And there are lots more stats coming out around that now.
That's really encouraging though, that even though it attracts a certain right-wing aggression about putting labels on things and why that's a bad thing, but for me, I can only speak for myself, but as a 33-year-old woman, seeing these people opening up about their experiences definitely helps me process the past and my relationship to my sexuality then and now even.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a term now, I suppose, that I would identify with, which is pansexual. Yeah. But there wasn't a term for it then.
No.
It was just as simple as you love who you love and you're attracted to who you're attracted to.
It's that logic, isn't it? It doesn't make sense that you'd ever write off a whole gender presentation, a whole swathe of the population of the earth, because it doesn't fit with these ideals society tells you should be adhering to.
Yeah.
With the pansexual thing, I definitely identify as that myself, but it's only in the few recent years of seeing this stuff out there that I've gone, well, yeah, because it also makes logical sense to me that you don't pigeonhole yourself, and that you love who you love and you're attracted to who you're attracted to. Another label that I've come to adopt as well and identify with is demisexual. It's also closely similar, my experiences are, to sapiosexual. I can't remember the other two.
So being sort of intellectually attracted to people.
Attracted to someone, or in my case, unless I'm emotionally invested or intellectually attracted to someone, then it doesn't really go anywhere. I don't feel sexually attracted to people, especially when I'm in a relationship, and now I'm married. I don't really find myself sexually attracted to other people. I'm attracted to them in a very different way, but it's not sexual. I'm attracted to, I want to be your friend and I'd love to ask you about your special topic, but now I'm married to my husband, That the demisexual label I think fits me, as does pansexual. But these are still really recent revelations.
Yeah, I think there were aspects for me of sort of asexuality as well that made sense, because I don't think of myself as asexual 100% of the time or anything like that, but there are certainly times when I'm not, it's not a big issue for me. I can, you know, deal without that aspect of my life. It's not on my agenda at that point. I have to be absolutely in the right place to feel that way.
Do you think that that's maybe for you? Because I know you, I'm saying these things. I'm not saying it's an asexual thing, but I think it's got intersections for us as mums for how much headspace, executive function, how much sensory stuff comes into that as well, because that asexual, it's not on my radar, absolutely not a point in my life. I really understand that since becoming a mum, because when you've got little ones, young ones, you're all touched out, you're all thought out, planning for 2-3 other people, that having that extra aspect to your life, I mean, for all mums, it does go away to an extent. Yeah. Either very briefly just after birth, or it can be years, or it may never resume, but it's definitely something that changes again becoming a mum.
Yeah, I think that's true, but for me, I think it goes even beyond even beyond motherhood and things like that. There are lots of things that come into it, and I think that if I'm not like in the completely right mental space, then it's just not something that's important to me, really. And that can be a challenge, I think, is balancing that in a relationship, and whether you're both in the same place at the same time or different places can be difficult. And I think that's quite common for autistic people as well, to have, I don't really know how to term it correctly, but to sort of have the aspect to lean towards asexuality now and again if things aren't sort of in exactly the right
they don't fall
configuration. And I think in a relationship as well, you know, we were talking earlier about if everything isn't perfect, then you're feeling really uneasy and things, so that's going to be the last thing on your mind. Whereas for perhaps other people, from what I read and what I see, in an aspect of the relationship where things aren't necessarily right, then they turn to sex as a fix or as a way to connect.
Yeah, I think that can be a difference. I'm obviously generalising and talking about our experiences, but I often see it as a motivator in relationships, and to me it would be a good bonus that you're sexually attractive or sexually available to your partner. But there are so many other conscious things going on that will impact that I wouldn't call it a motivating factor, or even a cog in the machine of my relationship. Yeah,
exactly. I agree with you. It's like a lot of people think it's the most important thing, and to me it's not the most important thing.
Maybe because for us it may mean it's a slightly rarer event, maybe, that all these things in our lives have fallen in a particular way, but for other people those things don't have to be in place. Maybe they find it easier.
For them, I think it sometimes, and I'm generalising from what I read, it's a way to link all those things together. Whereas for me, if they're not linked, then this is not happening. You know. Interestingly though, that's quite different when I'm not in a relationship. And I mean, I'm going back a long ways now, but I didn't need all those things to be in place just to be sexually attracted to somebody outside a relationship, because I don't know, there wasn't as much investment, I suppose.
Do you think that maybe that's related to understanding you're different before you were diagnosed?
Could be. I don't really know. Maybe. I always felt a little bit like an outsider, kind of looking in at everything, and that it's so intrinsic to my experience. It's still sort of something that I'm picking apart and trying to figure out.
Tangled,
Yeah, it is very tangled.
Yeah, same here. like I said, observing that it's a genuine motivating factor for a lot of younger people in particular, and even in the workplace, I found that was quite an issue in workplace dynamics, and because I didn't understand it emotionally, I studied it, and I realised that okay, it's quite important that people see you in a certain light, and I could see the people, the office hotties often did a lot better than the person next to them that wasn't considered that, and I found it like an almost like field work, like an experiment, but it still didn't make sense to me.
No, I mean, I actually read that women were likely to earn less if they didn't wear makeup, which, is both horrifying and slightly unsurprising.
It is it is when you observe so much, because it doesn't make sense. You do pick up on these things.
But again, there is those rules that you have to learn is you have to be sexually attractive and presented in a certain way, but not too much.
Yeah.
Not too much.
That impossible fine line.
Yeah.